if anything happens.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of escape, but I guess we'll see how this our films come out, and
Yeah, yeah, very exciting.
I'll blame all of you guys for if it goes to shit. Welcome on to the New Crown podcast. We are back. I am Daryl,
And I'm Phil.
and these couple of weeks, the podcast will be quite short since we are currently filming, or well, rehearsing for a film that we're shooting in July. So yeah, so we'll probably should just shoot this around 30 minutes, 45 minutes. We'll see. And
Right.
speaking of the film that we're currently doing, it has a relation to well, action, the action genre. And so I want to
Very
talk to you.
much.
Yeah, so I want to talk to you about basically how. Well, what do you? First of all, I want to see what are your opinions on action films? Do you think they're just sort
Right.
of a thrill seekers? Is it like
So I think, of course, there's a large proportion of people who enjoy action films who are adrenaline junkies or go for that type of fare. But I do think that it appeals to a broad demographic of people, of moviegoers.
hmm,
There's something about the kinetic energy within an action sequence that can keep the attention of almost anyone if it's well done.
yeah.
So, and there's all sorts of different types of action sequences, action films. It's so
Mm.
broad that there's a lot of subgenres.
Yeah, but they sell a lot of tickets. Like you said, it's very thrilling for a lot of people.
Yeah,
I'm just like to me like an action film because the reason why it dominates so much I feel like is because one it's not like story based. So
mm,
it's not like there's no really like the viewers don't really have to think. You know what I mean? It's not like a thriller where you gotta like puzzle out everything. It's very much just like you enjoy a ride and adventure.
I guess that depends on the subgenre and the film itself. But
Yeah.
yeah, there's a large proportion of it.
But I mean, like
Where-
in most cases, like even Taken, for example, you know, what I mean, like
Right,
all the three Takens, in the end of that, you're just kind of like, hey, yo, why don't you just put a padlock on your fucking daughter or like a GPS tracker and you'll find her every time you want. You know what I mean? It's kind of like, or like even the Matrix, for example.
right.
Like to me, the Matrix is a good example of like a good balance of both,
Mm,
where essentially there is a good story behind it, there's an idea behind it, and then
yeah,
there's the action sequence that sort of complement it.
yeah. Well, where the action is a reflection of what the movie is trying to show, what the movie is arguing, in a sense.
Yeah, but the only issue is though is as the films went on, like the second and third one, it kind of went more towards the action. So they upped the budget onto the action sequences, but then like the storyline
Yeah,
just kind of kept on like it's kind of like instead of going upwards, it kind of just like slowly hovered where the action sequence just went significantly higher.
right.
Where like in the
Where
first one, it's just like a one-on-one combat scene, and then afterwards, just like a whole entire Smith army going up against Neo, and he's going spinning around like a pole dancer.
right. Well, on the subject of Keanu Reeves in action films, we have the little trilogy right now.
Yeah,
Uh,
for now.
for now,
The fourth one was supposed to come out last year, but then COVID hit. But yeah,
right. So John Wick is very much a action series where the action is 95% of the film. There
mm,
is a story, however, a through line, but it is mostly like a bit like a ride, a mechanism to
mm,
enable the rest of the action sequences.
yeah. I have
Uh,
a question. I have a question concerning John Wick. Actually,
yep.
seeing John Wick essentially was just a sort of like a very sort of basic story of just an ex-assassin sort of trying to get trying to move on from life, and then his life catches up with him. Um, did you like when when like the two movies that came after came out and sort of revealed more about the world? Was it more of a positive or a negative thing? Because I know a lot of people that sort of like like the coin issue, like the whole idea with the coins, and the
Right.
whole idea, like the whole mystery behind, who are assassins. Are the assassin is the assassin world sort of known to the public, et cetera, et cetera. Like that whole mystery was the reason why John Wick was such a like well built character and well built
Mhm.
world, because it's kind of like it has glimpse of of stuff that like sort of piques the audience's interest in terms of like, oh, what does that really mean, like the gold coins, what is that, and all stuff.
Right.
But then when the second and third movie came out, it started giving backstories and like it really gave.
Answering all the questions. Yeah.
Exactly. So how do you feel
Um,
about that? Do you feel it's a good thing or a bad thing?
so I think the first one has a charm as a solo film
Mm.
where having all those mysteries answered does kind of make it less surreal
Hmm.
in the sense where you could watch the first one alone and it feels like almost like a kind of lucid dream
Mm.
of just kinetic action the whole way through in a vague-ish world that enables such bouts of violence.
Mm.
Um, and that has an interest of its own. However, I'm not completely against the idea of them fleshing out these things, but it does make the John Wick franchise a different one by
Yeah.
answering all those things. I
The,
think both ways can work.
yeah.
It's just I think tone is what matters
Mm.
in those cases, defining what the tone is.
To me it's kind of the same thing as like a book where like essentially when you have like when you read a novel, for example, it gives you like sort of descriptions of a world or whatever, but they don't give you the entirety, the entire
Right,
like sort of um blueprint of the world. It's sort of just like, okay, there's this, that, this, and you kind of create it yourself, and then you're like, oh look, maybe this has that. But it's basically the same thing as the first John Wick to me, where like they sort of give you like little hints and be like, oh, this could mean that, this could mean that, and it's sort of like a ambiguous question, right? Ambiguous answer, sorry. And then after that, you have sort of second and third movie where they sort of reveal what the meaning of this is, and like sometimes it's not up to par of what you expected it to be. So for example, like this, the whole assassin group thing where there's the favors, and there's this like uh John Wick comes from this Russian assassin, whatever, that has a cross or whatever the fuck it was.
right.
Like now you start questioning, like, okay, now it's a world within, like, that's a world within a world.
Yeah,
It's kind of like Black Widow, where it's like this character comes from this part of the world, but then this part of the world is actually connected to another part of the world that's sort of, what I mean? It's kind
right.
of
Like
like,
a larger world, but with a inner world or inner underworld that we explore.
exactly. And then there's also the whole, Lawrence Fishburne's character, the I forget what his name was. Um, yeah, his character, where he's sort of just like an old friend, and it's like this whole weird
Right,
thing. And I just like, sort of wonder, like, one, it gives you more mysteries, so I guess it's good, so you could kind of question yourself. But at the same time, it's kind of like eventually, um, the charm, like you said from the first one, kind of like dies down, where you just sort of
right,
like lose the actual character development, and you just, it's kind of like the reverse of an arc in a sense, where you start off with the resolution and you come backwards into
right.
the beginning.
Yeah, it is a strange kind of where the original John Wick is like an abstraction of
Mm.
reality, and then we ground it, or seemingly ground it more and more, and it raises more questions in a sense.
Yeah.
Um,
Would you? Well, I mean, first of all, I want to ask you, because John Wick is a very good example of this, because it's of its authenticity in the sense of how guns work. Where like often most action films, they don't really think about reloading or changing clips, for example.
sure,
Like stuff like not really mundane stuff, but like really small, minute details. Where John Wick sort of, that's the thing that kind of like separated John Wick from all the rest of the sort of action, high paced gunfight type thing, type movies, is where these sort of implemented real life situations where in a sense you have to reload,
right,
and then you have to sort of take time to sort of reset your gun, etc., etc. So do you feel like that aspect an important, like authenticity? I mean, is an important factor, or is just sort of like a, what do you think?
I, I would say it really depends on the tone that the film is going for. Once again, in the sense that hyper realism has a flair of its own. For example, if you've ever seen that live action Speed Racer movie,
Mm,
it's really great, but the colors and the action make no sense. But it has almost like a cartoony logic to it. But
mm,
since that logic is maintained throughout, it doesn't break your immersion in that kind of surreal
yeah.
world. So as long as there is somewhat of a consistent tone, right?
Mm,
Anything is believable to a degree. So
mm.
it depends what the movie really wants you to be thinking about.
Well, that's the thing. That's the whole problem with the Fast and Furious franchise, where it started off as a race and now they're flying cars and shit.
Right. I'm not very familiar with those,
Yeah, I
with the
watched.
whole franchise as a whole, but
I watched every one of them, and it's hilarious because you see
I,
the evolution. It's hilarious.
I've seen Tokyo Drift, and
What is it? Every single time, I know someone that watched the Fast and Furious is the one everyone hates. Like they watch the one that everyone fucking hates. Like the most randomest one out of all of the main ones.
right, I don't know. I guess it's the one with the most memes, I suppose.
Yeah, and it does have a lot of memes because it's just so like random. It's like it's just, yeah, I don't know. And then I like how they try to implement it into the main timeline, if you will, or I guess
Right.
the actual, like the canon version of the Fast and Furious, where they sort of made it as if three was actually after six, and so you gotta watch one, two, four, five, six, three, seven, eight, nine, well, and 10, I guess.
That's very strange.
So yeah, it's kind of, I find it quite funny. I get where they were going with it. Essentially, I'm guessing they were just like, they weren't planning on making a universe, kind of like the, like, I guess. Well, I mean, Marvel planned it as to make
Right,
the
planned
whole
from
thing.
the get go. Yeah.
But I mean, like Fast and Furious was just like, hey, yo, might as well just fucking make this whole thing one universe, right? There's already characters that are sort of
Right.
coming back. It's kind of like our movies where we could just literally just plot them all together. I wonder if someone's gonna do that. It'd be a great idea.
But
Anyways,
yeah, I think
yeah.
um, another good example of tone being the director of the action, in a sense, would be Mad Max Fury Road,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
where, of course, there's a lot of bonkers stuff that
Mm,
happens, but it's very consistent in of itself,
mm, yeah,
right? And you feel the weight of everything. Weight is another thing to take into account, which is, simulating the realistic weight of blows, of hits, of leaps, things like that,
yeah,
um, which really defines what your eye perceives as true in an action sequence, right?
yeah,
Like we're working on that right now
yeah.
with our stunt coordinators, where we're trying to make like the flow between hits and between moments seem like it has a motion, almost like a dance, really.
Yeah. So,
And
yeah. What is your experience with the our choreography? Like, what do you enjoy making, like, well, do you enjoy doing it, or is, like, sort of more, you're more accustomed to, or you favor traditional acting?
um, I really enjoy it. It's a different process,
Yeah, it's very
but
different.
it's it's like a more extreme version of like your physical exercises in theater,
Mm,
in a sense, where there's a lot of like moving about on stage. You have to practice that, but and all of your movements have to be calculated
mm,
and even exaggerated to a degree.
yeah.
Um, but meanwhile, in stunt coordination, it's a completely different ball game where you need safety measures, you need the area, you need all sorts of things to make sure that what you're making with your co-stars, I suppose, has the flair and the meaning
Mm,
that it's trying to transmit, right?
yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's
No.
something that could be a bit more complicated than it seems at first. Sometimes something seems natural, but then you realize maybe this conflicts with the tone or the meaning
Mm.
behind the sequence,
Well,
right?
that's the thing because essentially the whole synopsis was sort of to have a comedic dynamic between the fights where you know um the first part of it was sort of serious because it was between like it was tension between the two characters, but then afterwards it's sort of it's more of a comedic lash. But I decided as the director, I said, I want to keep the same tone because essentially, like we'll have a little bit of comedic moments through dialogue, but it's essentially sort of it's a grave situation because essentially
Right.
characters will die. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, making it so comedic wouldn't match the whole thing. So I think I did a good job by making it sort of match each other's like stay within the same parameter of like a sort of I guess more tension and less sort of comedic timing.
Right. Right. It's a lot of near death and
Yeah,
kind of showing the weight
yeah,
as well of these blows of sorts.
yeah. I think the hardest part for me to do it was is the basically because not only you have to coordinate the movements
Right.
of the actors, but you also have to coordinate the cameraman and the sound guy who's going to be behind the cameraman. So
Mm.
essentially, you're gonna have to because the action scene that we're doing it involves weapons. It's a lot more difficult than traditional, hand to hand combat because obviously the weapons has they give you a certain range from each other, right? So
Right.
obviously by having a certain range between actors, the cameraman also has to have range away from the camera, so it has to have a specific focal length. But during that time, when you
Yeah.
change focal length, the focus also changes,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
so at the same time, it's kind of like a mixed mash of just like trying to solve two problems, three problems at the same time,
Yeah.
which I
Different
find
types
quite
of problems too.
yeah, which obviously it makes a lot of there's a lot of adjustments in it, which I find enjoyable because it's quite it's I enjoy puzzles in a
It's
sense
a
that
fun
it's
process. Well, I have a question for you as someone who's directing an action sequence right now. Um, what do you think of the creative aspects, creative liberties, and the opportunities that you get with this kind of sequence? Well, where do you think you can apply creativity, and where do you think that you have,
well,
where does your flavor as a director, I suppose, mesh with, say, the stunt team?
yeah, I think in a sense because I kind of have insight on fight on combat sports anyways. Like to me, it was kind of easy to sort of to mix mash like actors fighting and stuff. So it's like it wasn't like too difficult. What is more difficult is actually having the sort of actors um sort of rehearse the movements the way that like it would naturally look. You know what I mean?
Right,
Especially when you have so many like you have so many weapons going on. You have the swords, you have your hands, you have your legs, everything. So you have different cues where essentially you have um one character dodging the knife and then there's a kick that comes out of nowhere. But you can't see the kick through the camera, so you gotta
right,
find an angle where the kick is shown.
right. Where you could see the kick hit
Yeah,
the, yeah,
and then but also to mask the kick so it doesn't look like you're actually kicking the character. So in a sense, it's very sort of complex. But I do enjoy the fact that ultimately, because our stunt coordinators are very open minded in the sense that they they're cool with changes.
yeah. They adapt
Yeah,
very quickly
which
to,
which I think is a very 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 important skill, and especially in filmmaking because ultimately
yeah,
nothing goes according to plan.
right,
And like I mean I mean your shoot for example is a perfect example where it was basically minus 40 out and we had to shoot three scenes outside
right.
in the freezing cold.
Complicated conditions. Yeah,
And so ultimately you got to find a solution that will benefit not only the the, the filmmaking process but also not hinder the actors themselves for
right.
getting sick or whatever, like losing a fucking limb. So essentially, yeah, because ultimately it was like it might as well be, someone's gonna get frostbite. Luckily, we found a chalet underneath.
Yeah, we luckily found a little resting place there.
Yeah, I was planning on shooting a scene there as well, but I think it's during the summer it's gonna be a lot more complicated, especially with like people's gonna come in there for sure. Now, in the
Right.
middle of a tense scene, you have some guy walking in taking a piss. You're just like, what the fuck is going on?
Going to grab a coffee.
Yeah, it's just gonna be stress. But at the same time, I feel like yeah. But back to your question is I guess my creativity comes from the sort of helps me with the sort of the general aspect of the fights. So like you know, ultimately I could apply it where for example, if a kick doesn't look right, or if the reaction to a kick or a reaction to a punch doesn't look right, I could basically sort of, which was kind of like the issue I had with Sammy and Ali, who where they were sort of hand to hand combat, and like the kicks would sort of like it wouldn't make sense with
Mm,
the previous moves. So we had to tweak
right.
it a little bit to make it seem like I don't know if you saw the cut that I made with the.
Yeah, yeah, I saw it. Yeah.
So yeah, it's ultimately that was what I wanted to try and do, and sort of with the camera. So I ultimately, when it comes to actually shooting it, all we have to do is just replicate.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's a good way to have like markers.
Yeah,
And speaking on the set video that I seen, I thought it looked really good.
yeah,
And what's cool is we managed to do that on very little of a budget,
yeah, very little.
and it's impressive that we're capable of managing that much at our current stage,
yeah,
and this is only the beginning of the production.
yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, this is why like I feel in a sense that big budget films like kind of in a sense don't know what they're doing with the money, so just invest it in like
Mm,
the visual effects and shit. So like it lacks the creativity, so it just makes things look really wonky and just random. You know what I mean? Like I like the recent Fast and Furious trailer, for example. There's a scene where Dominic Toretto jumps off of a truck before he flies off. I'm like, IRL, you're dead. Like from that height, with that momentum, and your head hitting the
yeah,
concrete, like you're dead. You know what I mean? It's like, and it looks like the CGI looks like a little like a doll hitting the fucking floor. Like it doesn't bounce. It's just like
right. Well,
the gravity just doesn't appear. It doesn't make sense.
we were talking about weight earlier. I think a
Mm.
director who creates weight in a very effective manner is Nolan.
Yeah. Well,
And
yeah.
yeah, the best example of these would be in The Dark Knight.
Yeah.
But in all these sequences, the reliance on practical really does come through
Mm.
ultimately.
Yeah.
And even in some of his films with more CGI heavy, um, mostly thinking of Interstellar,
Yeah.
there's still enough of these practical like
Mm.
scenarios within which the camera is looking through to really create this weight.
Mm. Well, he doesn't use the visual effects as like a sort of prop. He
Not
uses
as a crutch.
yeah, he uses
He
it more
uses
as
them
to
to
develop.
enhance
Yeah, exactly.
visuals.
Yeah. It's
Um,
it's not like a oh why not insert this here we look it'll look cool. It's more of like we need this to sort of amplify the scope of say I don't know the
right.
planet or something. You know what I mean? To like
Or the story needs this to be told,
yeah, yeah,
in a sense. Like the same way a lot of, we'll say, sci-fis require that level of VFX to
yeah.
be able to tell those stories most of the time.
Mm,
But then there's, like you said, the flip side where a story that doesn't really require said VFX then relies on them to create an image that they're not capable of creating otherwise,
yeah.
or they're
Well, that's why I think like the Mission Impossible, the recent Mission Impossible films are really highly regarded because they use practicality, which is
Mhm.
kind of nuts because Tom Cruise is just fucking adrenaline junkie in itself. So it's like
Right.
whatever.
It's part of the
But like
selling point, I suppose.
yeah, exactly. So in a sense, it's kind of the same thing with the beginning of the Dark Knight Rises where the plane crashes. That was practical,
Yeah.
and so I feel like there's this sort of like you said, it's not only a weight, but it's like there's like a tension on like with it being practical. It's like those are real people doing that. They're real
Right.
lives at stake. You know what I mean?
Well, that's the thing. It's you can kind of a part of your brain feels it
Yeah.
when you know that it's practical.
So it's not like something like you're very much into it in a sense. You're very like you're connected. Like you know how you would feel in a situation like that. Where in a sense, like if the thing was entire thing was CGI, like green screen or whatever, kind of like Iron Man, for example. You know, when he jumps off the plane, whatever. Like it's Iron Man, so you don't really like feel that tension in the sense where like a couple of people jump out of the plane. You're kind of like, yeah, but that's highly unlikely. And anyways, if that were to happen IRL, it wouldn't really work.
Uh,
The what I'm thinking is sort of. Do you remember the Iron Man 3 when the
yeah, I like that sequence actually. It's fun.
I know
It's
it's nice to look at, but I'm saying like in a certain because like a couple of physicists sort of debunked it, where
sure.
because you know how weight sort of when you add weight,
Right,
the
it'd
person
be even worse.
yeah, so the person
Yeah.
holding the other person would basically carry every single other person that's within that that line there. So
Yeah.
essentially, the person who's being held by Iron Man would just have her arm ripped off.
Yeah, it could have some bad results if taken too
Yeah,
realistically.
yeah, realistically,
Yeah. Well,
exactly.
that's the thing. I think once again it all depends on are you matching the tone or are
Well,
you creating a sequence that raises a lot of questions when compared to the rest of the film,
yeah,
right? Like not to disparage any VFX workers because uh I've seen VFX that have that weight that really trick you. You know,
mm,
that it's possible. It's difficult, but there are examples of VFX that have gotten to a level where they really can reach that kind of concentration that you have when it's practical,
mm.
but it's rare. It's very rare.
Yeah. I don't know. I still I don't know. I'm a bit old school where I kind of
Mm.
like enjoy a more a higher percentage of practical effects
Yeah,
mixed with a bit of VFX,
yeah, I agree with that.
which is more ultimately one, it's cheaper, and two, it forces the director to be more creative.
Right.
So it's not like he's just like, oh, we'll do that in post. Yeah, like how easy that is. You know what I mean? It's like, oh yeah, we'll just sit, we'll do this, and then we'll put
We'll
a shark.
correct the film that's broken.
We'll put a shark in post, and then just match the
Or
color
shark.
correction. Yeah, horse shark. Yeah, that's the best character in D&D. We're gonna create one.
Oh my gosh.
But yeah, essentially that's sort of like um the way I see it in the sense that what we're doing right now is we can't really rely on post production that heavily.
Right.
So it forces me to sort of think of movements that would sort of make the action scene look good. That's why in a sense the video I showed you it forces a lot of dynamic shots that
Right.
you wouldn't normally see in normal filmmaking because it's sort of kind of like it kind of breaks the rules in a sense
Right.
where
It's
like
very much hands-on. I like shifting POVs
yeah,
frequently.
shifting axis and a
Yeah,
lot
the
of
breaking the axis fairly often.
there's a lot of stuff that yeah, but yeah, what what do you think about the actual scenes itself? Do you think it's like would you see yourself in an action film in a sense? What I'm asking, like an
Yeah.
actual action set.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely would. I think
Like if you were to play real Spider-Man, well, obviously you'd say yes, but I mean I mean like what I mean like a heavily action film. Would you?
yeah, I don't think I would shy away from it. I think I would still have to know what is expected of me in what circumstances,
Yeah,
right? Like I don't think I would be ready to go to Mr. Tom Cruise's level,
jump off a bridge.
but I don't think many do that anyways,
Go bungee jumping 10 times, and then you'll be there.
right? But outside of what Mr. Cruz does, I think I would definitely be game to
Mr.
challenge.
Cruz. It's basketball, Mr. Cruz.
Right, right.
Coach Carter.
So I think I would enjoy the. Right now, I am enjoying the process.
Mm,
There's hardships.
mm.
It's a challenge,
Yeah, yeah.
but
About that, how do you like? How do you fare with the actual choreography itself? Because it's very different. It's different muscles in a sense than like
yeah,
rehearsing a line or a monologue.
right. Well, I guess in a sense, I'm grateful that I already have some level of athleticism
Mm,
because I know that getting started with, you know, just not having that movement in mind
mm,
is definitely a challenge for many. And it's, I think I will thank my theater instructors for so much focus on movement
yeah.
because it gets you ready to start that journey for
Mm,
when it comes to stunts at least.
yeah.
Um, and I think there's definitely like a brick wall in front of you when you start, which is you're going to have to learn to take hits.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to learn
Yeah. You
to.
got punched in the stomach.
I got a
How'd that
full
feel?
force punch in the stomach three
Yeah,
times.
how'd that feel?
Pretty good because I didn't flinch, but
Yeah.
but
When you get hit by boxer is very different though. You'll drop.
right.
when
Well,
you get hit in boxing, it hurts a lot. Actually, it doesn't really hurt. You just knocks your wind out.
it
It's
just
like
yeah, exactly. It makes you have to get your breath again.
yeah, but
But
yeah.
yeah, it's a very interesting type of process
What I find
that
it hilarious because it's obviously like, as a director you're not really involved with the well, but you're involved. You're involved to a certain degree to in the
right.
choreography, but in a
Yeah.
sense because I would also embody the other characters, sort of like this to sort of showcase where each characters are in a sense. I basically did a couple of stunts.
Well,
Like
it's funny because you and I have a choreography that we basically learned together,
yeah,
and
well,
that's pretty funny.
well, I mean, I did the same thing what I did with the other two with Ali and Sami. I basically did their choreography as in like I
Right.
embodied one character, I embodied the other character, and sort of I did it, I mimicked the movements, and essentially, I would do each one of the stunts. So I did the flips and I did all that stuff, and so I would
Yeah.
wake up and like my back's killing me and stuff like, oh my god, I'm
It takes a strain on the body
a stunt actor,
eventually.
especially when you have no mat on the floor. It's just like, oh Jesus Christ.
Yeah, that's another thing is that at our level, I think I understand where a lot of the budget goes for those action
Yeah, for
flicks. It's
safety for sure. Safety,
safety,
which I
because
kind of invested a lot in. Well, a lot. I bought a bunch of padding and protective suits, so when people fall,
right.
it won't hurt as much.
Yeah, our next few ones we'll have our safety measures this time instead of us having to hit the ground, the
Yeah,
soil.
no, yeah, that's
But yeah, there's definitely something I think you could also attest to that, akin to dance
yeah.
in fighting.
It's very much a dance. It's very much and choreography is very much a dance.
And one of our choreographers even said this to me that you're dancing with a partner. So
Yeah,
you have to know your partner.
yeah,
You have to get comfortable with your partner because your partner will punch you in the face.
yeah. Essentially,
So
you,
you have to get comfortable with that.
so you got to know when to take it.
Yeah, how to take it
Yeah.
and how to get back from it.
I get it back from it. It's kind of funny though, where when we're doing the choreographies, essentially, it's sort of because you have such muscle memory. When you change a bit of the tempo,
Yeah,
you kind of miss you kind of go either too early or too late.
yeah,
It looks like you're about to hit him. It's like oh shit. You know what I mean? Like sometimes when you do like for example, like the spin that we have that there's a
right.
little
The
spin
spin attack.
because you're so used to doing it like 1 2 and then you spin it kind of like it's just like so quick that it doesn't match like sort of the actual scene itself so it's gonna be like okay do this wait and then turn around and then sort of like
Right,
break your tempo and in a sense rebuild it and like
right. As a side note, I really love the spin attack. It's both like a bit surreal, but it works so well with the flow
Yeah,
of that moment that what is considered one of the like hardest thing to like sell,
yeah,
which is like, twisting around.
yeah,
We managed to do that, and I find that very, very fun to do.
yeah. I like the well, we added it. I think the second day where we're sort of just like, oh, what could
Right.
we what could be cool? I was thinking we could add like sort of because it's very sort of static in a sense where it's just like
Mhm.
arm motions. I was thinking you make find like movements that allow you to like flip around because essentially I kind
A bit
of
more style.
yeah, that's why I kind of because essentially the two characters are kind of assassins, so
Right.
they have this sort of ninja esque movement
Mm.
where they're sort of dynamic. They're not like they're not like traditional swordsmen like in Game of Thrones where it's just like sword swinging and shit. It's very
Right.
much like
It's not like German long swording. It's
yeah,
very much it's somewhat more surreal to
yeah.
an extent.
What I find it quite interesting though, and that I realized during the directing the choreography, is that I would take elements from say like if I'm doing Sammy and Ali's choreography, I would take elements from your choreography and implement in their choreography, and then when we're doing yours, I implement some elements from their choreography and I add it to yours. So like
Right.
the whole like dynamic range of like you moving around and stuff that was sort of like there because they have their same sort of type of movement where they
Right.
stance and then it's very dynamic. I did the same thing with you guys but also implemented the same movement of the cameras onto their fighting
Right.
that made it so like kind of drone-esque, kind of what I
Right.
mean, it's like it
Yeah, yeah,
looks
floating around the action.
exactly.
Yeah, it adds also consistency, having the choreographies bleed into each other creatively.
Yeah,
It creates some sort of
so I kind of wanted like a dolly where so you could easily set one,
mm,
but Hugo's reliable enough to move around with the camera, so
yeah,
it's not a bad thing. But I think the hardest difficulty right now is just really finding the tempo.
right. Well, that's the thing. Once again, it's a dance, so
Yeah, because like
tempo is everything.
because essentially like the actress is easy because obviously you have your tempo where when a strike
Right.
lands you instantly dodge. It's very instinctual in a sense.
Yeah.
But with the camera is very different because there's some actions, some scenes where you have to hide a motion or hide
Right.
a sort of hit to make it seem like it's an actual hit, but it's not.
Yeah.
So that's why, in a sense, like the dynamic shots work so well because it's a one take one, so you don't really lose time,
Right.
and but also it helps with the motion of like the tracking of action scenes and like
Right.
hopefully in the end it looks real nice. Oh, I can't wait for this film to come out.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's definitely a more ambitious
Yeah,
project.
I did it by accident. The thing is, it's funny though because I when I developed the idea of the Legion, it's basically I had the whole idea of like the series, and then I literally took the last scene, like the last 15 minutes of the series,
Right.
and used that as the pilot.
Definitely a choice.
I think it's the best one because it's basically the climax of it sort of encompasses what the very essence of the story is, and also
Right.
implements aspects of the storyline that sort of
Right.
like we talked about in John Wick earlier, the mystery aspect of it. Like, well, what
Yeah,
is
yeah, it leaves some things open enough, but not so much that it, you know, creates a constraint.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Well, on the last topic I wanted to talk about is regarding a discussion we kind of had prior. Is how often directors are sort of I guess you could say they're forced to think very quickly,
Right.
creatively, and so a lot of people have this connection with ADHD or rather hyperactivity.
Right. Making drawing connections, I suppose.
Yeah, I find it. Now I'm because I'm analyzing it. Um, in a sense, yes, I do agree that it kind of requires that in order to be like it's not really like the deficit part, really the whole was it the attention to detail. It's more rather more OCD, I'd say.
I think it really I think to me it's very much a toss up because I mean we know a lot of people personally, creatively, and
Mm,
that work in the field that uh, are people that have that deficit, for example,
mm,
and they they work very well in the field,
yeah,
as well as anyone else who would work
yeah,
in the field, right? So that's something that is nice is that um, all sorts of people with different neurodivergences are very much welcome in
yeah,
fields like film,
yeah,
where they have an opportunity to use whatever it is that they specialize in or whatever they are most fixated on,
mm.
if that is the case, and they can expand on that.
A funny note as director when I'm working with you is it's because it's so hilarious. How because you're so like attentive to detail,
Yeah,
which yeah is a good thing, but at the same time it's kind of like the problem that we kind of had in Fly is that you really wanted shit to look exactly the same thing,
right.
but then like the weather does not match
Yeah,
and stuff
those
that you can't
elements that you
control.
can't control in
Yeah,
life.
like
That's my
there are no
biggest.
clouds. I'm like, yeah, I'll summon them real quick. Like,
Yeah, that's you're right about that. You're very much right. That's
it's funny because it's like Hugo has the same sort of idea, sort of I guess compulsion where he has to like make things the way he sees them,
right. Yeah.
which is a good thing because essentially you really know what you want and all
Yeah,
you have
you
to
have
do
a
is.
clear vision from the get-go.
But at the same time, I guess
It
it's sort
comes
of
with weaknesses. It comes
yeah,
with the flaw of, well, what if an issue
yeah,
arises?
it's sort of
Yeah,
not anticipating and sort of, and it's I guess like the producer in me that sort of like sees
right.
that coming and it's still like, yeah, I know he's gonna fucking he's gonna not gonna get shit. He's gonna be like, oh fuck, I can't get no goddamn clouds this day.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's a good thing. You have very much a producer's eye view. Whenever you work in any position on a film, you still have that kind of
Yeah,
producer side of you that's always somewhat active,
you know,
thinking of the logistics
yeah.
and like the, how we could accomplish that.
I find it funny though because you know how like Tarantino essentially wrote scripts because he wanted to direct something.
Right.
Like he wasn't planning on writing stuff because he just wanted to direct a movie.
Yeah,
So he was
yeah.
like, I mean, it's the same thing. I just became a producer because I wanted to direct shit. It was like nobody wants to be a producer. Everyone wants to be a director.
Yeah, it's funny.
And so essentially, I'm like, oh fuck, whatever. I'll do. I'll just do it.
A lot of directors, once they get successful enough, just become producers most of the time. That's another thing you see often.
Yeah, but
A
even
lot of
then, you're kind
people's
of
like end game of sorts.
yeah, but that's sort of like in a sense, once they've already like done most of what they've done, it's
Yeah,
more like a mentorship, I guess, in a sense. It's not like
exactly.
where they kind of
Yeah,
like they're overlooking another director and they're sort of like giving input
right.
a bit, but they're really letting them do the creative ideas flow. I find it funny though because as you even as an actor, it's gonna the same thing as the way you direct is very sort of no I didn't nail that cue no it's very it's like yo relax it's just, you know what I mean it's like
Right.
it's not that deep it's like is
That's
it
the
good
thing. To me, it always has to be that deep.
it's like is it good is my acting good I have to say it this way. Sometimes, in
Yeah,
a sense, you overact. That's the thing. If you overact,
yeah. That's the thing. That's the overacting thing is very much a theater issue.
yeah. I mean, yeah.
Because when there's people in the back, you need to make sure they get it as much as the people in front.
That's what I see often in like the transitions from theater actors to film actors is because theater you have to really like vocalize because there's like
Yeah,
a whole row of people, so you ultimately like you have to literally scream out what you mean.
yeah. You have to extend your voice.
Yeah, and then you have and then in film you literally have like the mic right next to you. You start screaming like a psychopath. It's like, yo, you're spiking, relax.
Yeah, yeah. You're right.
I
That
am Shakespearean.
I am Shakespeare in the flesh.
Oh man, but it's a good thing though. At the same time, it's just like uh it's kind of time consuming when you over sort of you focus on really minute details
Yeah,
when you have an entire picture to paint. You know what I mean?
yeah, definitely.
Like the
The
carrots don't have to
pixeling,
be red. It could be
right, right. Yeah, you don't have to make them cry with every line.
yeah, exactly. You don't have to like
Just the one.
yeah, you don't have to hit him with the feels every single 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
it's nice to have a little build up first and then hit him hard.
yeah, yeah. That's a very funny kind of thing that very recurring. You're right.
What do you think of my style directly? My on my more lax style. 'Cause I know a lot of
Right,
people have this sort of not really a problem. It's more of they're not used to it because it's sort of like
right. People are adapted to expecting a director to typically have a set of requirements, a set of wants, and
yeah
they get what they want
yeah
because they're directors. Um, and meanwhile, on your side, you're very much more of a collaborative, let every department bleed into each other type of
yeah
thing. You view more the production in its whole, and your role in that is to be the glue
yeah
rather than being the top of a pyramid in a
yeah
sense.
yeah
So it's very much I enjoy it because it allows everyone else to have as much fun as you.
yeah no exactly. Well, the same time, the way I see it is like it's less work for me because ultimately you're giving me options. I'm like yeah, let's take that one.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like, okay, offer me up ideas and I'll take the best one. Yeah,
Yes.
it's very much just
Bidding
like
war,
democratic.
bidding war.
Yeah, it's democratic filmmaking, which is interesting in and of itself. It's definitely a an approach to film that is not classical,
Yeah,
but has definitely a lot of merits in how it solves a lot of problems. Because
yeah,
once again, it's almost like that producer side of yours where you know that someone will bring you the answer
yeah,
because you're busy with talking to one, but
yeah,
you know that since you've told them, okay, go, you could find me an answer, and someone will come back to you with an answer.
yeah,
So it speeds up the process.
yeah. Well, it's kind of like what Hugo said. Efficiency. I
Yeah,
find in this medium.
incredibly efficient.
Granted, the things like there's a lot of like the downside on that though. The way I see it's very much like some people who have sort of who kind of like get a little too comfortable, start like overseeing stuff and like start like
Well,
oh no,
that's
I'll
the
do this. You know what I mean?
yeah. I'll say the flaw of this style in that you adopt is that the authorship in question
Yeah,
can sometimes be lost in the
yeah,
the wave, but that's all up to the decisions of
yeah.
the directors ultimately.
Yeah, I find it quite interesting because my personality is very the opposite of it. I'm very much a dickhead. You do this. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah. Well, you're different as a you're very different as a director than
Like I'm a lot more what is it tolerant and more sort of patient when I'm when I'm in producer director mode.
that's funny.
Like everyday life, I'm like a fucking dickhead. It's like I can't be bothered with you.
I Yeah, I think in that sense, I think I'm the opposite
Yeah, it's
of,
very true. It's very
at
true.
least in film. I know I'm a perfectionist, and thus I always want things to be one way
Yeah,
and have to try and attain that way at any means necessary. And there's
mm,
also like a part of me that's like, it's an equation. You have to,
yeah,
operate this in
yeah.
relation to this, and then you get the
Result.
result
Yeah,
that you're aiming for.
yeah.
And that's my challenge, I suppose.
The way I see it is like well, I mean, it's very much the if you, and to very much complete your analogy, it's kind of like comparing us to the way we work in school, and that you're very much like I need to study to make my to match like to have the highest grade possible. I'm very much hey yo, give me your homework real quick. I just have to copy this to have to get the grades. This is very much it's very much reflective of our
Yeah,
work
yeah, our work
styles.
methods.
I'm like, yo, I just need this thing written so I don't have the tension. I don't care about the answer. Yeah, like you give me a 70. I don't give a shit. But yeah, no, I feel like it's because my style sort of brings about more of a um global understanding of like the actual project itself. It's not like I because like often enough when you direct something and you want it a specific way, it kind of like to me it's kind of like I lost an opportunity to explore other options. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like say like if my vision like I told Hugo like yesterday is basically if my vision is completely my vision and shit, it's completely 100% my fault.
Right. So it's almost like you're challenging auteur theory to a
Yeah,
degree of,
exactly.
it's not because he's the director or because he's the an auteur that
Yeah,
he's right, and
yeah.
it doesn't make it good in any
It's
sense.
more. It's also like, oh, if the DP gives me a suggestion and it's shit, I'll be like, yo, that's the DP's idea, man. I was being, you know what I mean? I was being lenient because the DP is working so hard, so I wanted to accommodate the choice
So
by
you
giving
don't
him.
take any of the you don't take any
I
slack.
use him as scapegoats. Writers
All the
like
bad things, that's them.
all the reviews. The acting is so shit. Hey, bro, I was not even the actors. You know what I mean? The
I
actors.
wasn't the actor
Yo,
though.
I saw him. I saw them as professionals. I thought they were professionals, but actually they're garbage. You know what I mean?
Thought they were good.
I thought that's all on them. Like I already told him what I wanted. He said, I know better because I'm an actor,
It's
and
out of
then
my hands.
it's out of my hands. You know what I mean? I can't control them. I don't mind. I don't have the mind powers. But yeah, it's kind of funny because it's basically sort of I guess an excuse. So if it does fail, I have a backup plan. Because you run out the fucking door, and you're like, "Yep, you guys do this shit."
Maybe your escape button if anything happens.
Yeah. So yeah, speaking of escape, but I guess we'll see how this our films come out, and
Yeah, yeah, very
and, uh,
exciting.
and I'll blame all of you guys for if it goes to shit.
Yeah.
I'll blame Jason for the sound if it's fucking shit. The editing, I blame it for Jason. I know the music fire, so that's 100% me.
You already know that part's good.
Shut up part's good. So I don't. Yeah, I'll take all the blame or the praise rather. But yeah, no, I'm interested. You planning on putting on a festival, right? Yours?
Yes, yes, I'm planning on applying my film to
Yeah,
festivals
yeah.
soon.
I'm interested. I'm interested in seeing that, and because yeah, I think it's the point right now that it could work very well.
Yeah,
I'm just waiting. Well, the only thing I need to sort of add on to your film is sort of the introduction to the logo, the
yeah, our new logo.
the animated logo that Jason's working on. Our great director, sorry, editor,
Editor.
editor in chief.
Yeah, editor in chief. Yeah,
Jonah Jameson, JJJ.
yeah, my J. Jonah Jameson.
Yeah. So
It's it's
I just
exciting though,
yeah
because I'm very happy that it's reached a level where I feel satisfied with it because I'm very much
yeah
focused on attaining something that I'm satisfied with. So,
yeah. How would you rate it real life? Like honestly, if you're brutally honest, how would you rate your film?
uh, what's the scale?
So from one being like complete like amateur student film to
Okay,
a 10 being say not professional but like sort of it's a good enough thing to show to producers that could potentially take it over as like an actual like a feature film for example,
right.
like a,
Um,
a proof of concept if you will.
I think I'll say 7
A
or
7, okay.
7.5 maybe. I have to rewatch it a few times.
Mm.
I've been doing that a lot.
Yeah, same. I mean we were watching the same thing, so I was like to me honestly it's pretty good. I'd
How
say
much would you rate it?
from student film all the way up to say semi-professional, I'll probably give it around the same score, like maybe an 8 even, because like the only thing I would really change, well, not really change, but add on is basically the a little bit longer in a sense,
Right, make it a longer
because
length.
the arc is very quick. It's sort of I mean it's
It
5 minutes,
definitely, yeah,
but I mean you can't really change that. But no, to be honest, the arc is complete. and with everything that goes with it, like the dialogues and the actual music itself, everything matches. So like to me,
Yeah, it is a complete package.
yeah, it
And
meshed.
that's one thing I'm very happy with. It's kind of for New Crown, it's also like a new step where we have this complete short where we have every element good. Like
Yeah.
we have good sound,
Mm,
we have good framing, we have everything
yeah.
all the elements of film, montage and everything that we would analyze for
Yeah.
one of our courses, for example,
Yeah.
all of those boxes are ticked.
Yeah.
So we truly have something that, you know, technically has no flaws, but
Yeah.
you know, the
It's
that the
more.
rest is all in the artistic
Yeah. 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 It's more the
realm.
execution itself that's
Yeah,
about it.
exactly. The rest is all. I'm happy because the rest is all debatable, but I can claim that objectively it doesn't have problems.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, but he has no scapegoat. It's all his. That's all his. I didn't have nothing
Exactly,
to do with his shit.
exactly. The, that's the thing. For me, there's nothing to scapegoat. For me, it's all. I have to make sure that objectively it mechanically works. There's nothing
Yeah.
in the clock
Yeah. Funny
that
enough. Yeah. Funny enough. The sound went to shit during that shoot, so I had to think fast, and
yeah,
it
we
actually looks
saved
well.
that. We
It
managed to
actually looks well.
completely salvage the whole issue was solved, but due to quick thinking,
I think I arguably I don't know. I'm just. I mean, it's not really. I mean, I kind of suggested both, but it's kind of like I feel like the second take was better because
yeah, well,
it matched with the environment where
it
they
matched
were.
the environment
Yeah.
to a greater. I agree with that. I think if I truly thought that it was inferior, I wouldn't have let it slide.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't like a complete like bust where we had sort of
No, it's not like we didn't screw up towards the movie. It at worst we could say it was a waste of like time,
yeah,
but it didn't ended up impacting the film
the
on a
film
grand
itself.
scale.
Well, I mean, hopefully it comes out soon so you all of y'all could check it out.
Yeah,
Check out our previous films at NewCrown Productions on YouTube. Hopefully,
yeah,
have a link in the description. And also, my short will be coming out well relatively soon. Hopefully, it's called Alter Ego. It's basically a way better version of Venom. I was kidding. Well, yeah, it's kind of, it's a realist, I guess, realistic view version of Venom. It's less supernatural.
right. Very much like grounded
Yeah,
with the elements in the film.
yeah. It's a little bit of
Yeah,
metaphors taking over instead of like like the actual being itself coming out. It's very much sort of like
right.
more psychological. It's not. It's
Yeah,
not. It's not like a extraterrestrial being that actually comes in. It's very much like open mind the character. But yeah, hopefully, and also Legion's gonna come out fucking probably the end of this year. So yeah, hopefully they come out well. Future
yeah.
Daryl, you let me know. Yeah, he comes back. Yo, bro, it's fucking shit. Don't ever do that again. Send me an email from the future. Hey, yo, your shot went to shit. Everything went garbage. The fucking asteroids hit. Everyone died, and then Legion never completed. But yeah, hopefully yeah, it comes up well, and you guys can get to see it and enjoy it. So this has been a New Crown podcast. I am Daryl,
And I'm Phil.
and we're posting every single Friday. Stay tuned for next week. We might have Ali, one of our choreographer. Sorry, not choreographer. One of our characters from our upcoming film join the podcast next week. So
Yeah,
we'll see. And
yeah.
see y'all next time. Peace.
Take care.